and welcome to another interview. This time it's my pleasure to talk with Arie and Chuko Esiri, two brothers from Nigeria who directed and in Chuko's case also wrote the movie EYIMOFE, This Is My Desire. Hi Arie, hi Chuko. Thank you very much for taking the time and joining me for this interview, especially during these important and eventful times. Arie, you're currently located in New York. Chuko, you're in Nigeria. How are the two of you doing during these eventful times?
Well, thank you for having us. I think I can't speak for Arie. I am doing about as well as one can imagine with being restricted and not having the opportunity to interact with people the way we normally do. But on a, I'll give you a larger scale. I'm actually doing really well in respect of the various movements that are happening on the ground in Nigeria and the direction in which everybody's facing. You know, I think like every problem, there's finally been an acknowledgement of a big problem being the way the nation works, and we'll touch on that as we speak about the film. So I think having had that acknowledgement, I'm very hopeful about progress going forward. So personally, I'm fine, and philosophically, I'm great.
What about you, Arie?
Well, I haven't been in Nigeria to see how the winds have changed since that really terrible couple of weeks ago with the whole NSAS protests and how that ended, at least in its physical manifestation. But since then, leadership has changed in America, which I'm very happy about. It was a very tense, very eventful week for a lot of us here, especially within the artistic community, but New York as well, actually New York as a whole. So this weekend, there was a lot of celebrating, a lot of champagne being popped. I think we're yet to see what this change will bring, but it's a good step in the right direction. So I'm also relatively positive today.
Glad to hear that. So let's jump into your movie. In EYIMOFE, you tell the story of the two characters, Mofe and Rose, who have the desire to leave Lagos and move to Europe. But the film doesn't allow them to fulfill their dreams. Instead, this life goal shapes their daily routines and prevents them from continuing to live their real lives. In some way, you're telling a mirrored migration story, and I think it was you, Chuko, who also called EYIMOFE an anti-migration movie once. Could you explain to our viewers what is meant by that and why you decided to tell the story from this perspective and what aspects were especially important for you to show?
I think the migration film has been dominated by one particular narrative, which is either the perilous journey or hardship upon arrival. And in these films, you don't really know or get to know who these people are. You don't have a sense of what their daily existence is, their small joys and their small pains. In essence, they're not human beings, fully formed that way. They're kind of I found personally, of course, it's just a personal opinion, I found that they are vessels for political statements. So for us, we were very, very intent on showing, on doing the exact opposite, which is humanizing these characters, on getting the audience to see and to recognize them and their dreams and their hopes, to recognize them the same way they would recognize their own ambitions and the things they want for their families. So that was very much the aim. It's even with news coverage, it's people in life vests in the Mediterranean or huddled together in migration camps, and it's hard to recognize their humanity. But I think what you have is great pity for the situation, but not the people. And we were very intent on humanizing people and on simply just showing the nation as it is, and helping people understand why it is these individuals would want to take such big risks to leave. It's very evident throughout the film that things are broken, things aren't working, and people are not given the opportunity to live their best life, which is what every single person wants.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. While watching the film, we were particularly impressed by how close the viewer is to the main characters as they face challenges and experience setbacks in an almost terrifyingly honest way. I also read that the second storyline of the hairdresser Rosie was written later. Could you tell us about the development process of the characters and by how much they were influenced by existing people in your surroundings?
They're all composites of individuals that we've met, heard of, or actually witnessed and seen. A lot of some of the pieces and details are taken from just things I've seen over the years I've lived in Lagos. With Rosa's chapter, Rosa always existed as a character, but she was more of a supporting character. And it wasn't until my last year at film school when a classmate of ours sent round a study by the Gina Davis Institute at USC. And it had to do with representation of women in film, female characters. And at the time, I found that I was guilty of a lot of the falling into a lot of the traps and tropes. So second chapter in her, she grew purely out of a desire to be a better or more balanced writer. And as I looked at the character more closely and considered her situation and the pieces of her life, she grew and grew and grew, and it got to a point where it made sense, or it felt right, to give her her own chapter, and that's when the Italy piece came in. And once that piece came in, it sort of I was very much more interested in the film, and I felt it was more balanced and more nuanced than its previous existence.
Yeah, okay. So you both studied filmmaking in America and therefore spent quite some time in your life outside of Nigeria. What impact did these experience you got from living outside of Nigeria have on, first, the way you choose to represent Nigeria, the country in the film, and then second, the way you presented the desire of the two main characters to leave Nigeria?
Yes, that's an interesting question. Well, with regards to representing Nigeria, I don't think our experiences abroad influenced that at all. I mean, we've never left Nigeria. You know, we were abroad to school, you know, to get an education, because that was not available to us at home. So, you know, if anything, it's just this understanding of how the country lets us down in various ways. You know, I'm hesitant to say that, like, America is a perfectly functioning state. But you know, you sort of just look at, like, you know, I have this conversation with Chuko and friends, you know, just the general infrastructure that is available to one in other places, whether it's the UK or America, that aren't in Nigeria. So I think that there's a certain amount of disappointment that I think I harbor towards the way things work in Nigeria, and I think that reflects in the story that we see. But to be honest, in a more positive way, actually, I think being abroad, we are more privy to the two-dimensional nature in which people talk about Nigeria and about Africa, and it goes back to what Chuko was saying about the normal, the average migration story that we see, that usually comes from Europe or an outside lens looking in, we've often found is pointing its camera in the wrong direction. So that's something which I think, being in both of these places, we're able to correct. Whilst we don't make films for Western audiences, having that awareness, I think, was helpful. That awareness of how unconsidered I think the individual is in these stories, and understanding also that, for example, we come here to go to film school or have access to that kind of education because we don't have it at home. And if we did have it at home, we wouldn't be here. But migration is something that touches everyone. I think that answers one part of your question, at least.
At least, yeah. I can repeat the second one. So it was how your experiences abroad also affected the way you presented the desire to leave Nigeria from the two main characters.
Chuko, do you want to take that one?
You see, Franz, now you're getting an idea of how it works on set. Anything he doesn't want to do, he passes it over to me. I think, sort of going back to what Arie said, being abroad and wanting to show this desire to travel. The influence was in how we chose to do it, and by that I mean I don't think we're overtly polemical about showing why they want to leave. I think it's sort of woven in the fabric of their day-to-day existence. We buried the message in the quotidian details of their life. You see just how at every step and at every corner, the nation and the machinery of the nation is keeping them from having the very best that's possible. So I think being outside, being aware of how the nation and the continent in general is portrayed. I mentioned earlier that they tend to use the characters as vessels for a political statement. I think for us, the message or the politics of it are necessarily entwined with the story. And we didn't feel like we needed to beat an audience over their head with a hammer. If we just showed it as it was, literally just presented as it is, then you'd get a sense of the frustrations and the limitations of living at home. So I think being away and being aware of how Nigeria is portrayed or the things that people are drawn to helped us make that decision to be a bit more nuanced in our presentation of the trouble and the difficulties.
Okay, yeah. So in Arie's part, we touched a little bit how you decided to represent Nigeria. And obviously the city Lagos plays a huge part in that as well. You can see the social complexity from the small apartments of the two protagonists to larger homes of landlords and luxury bars and hotels where business people live, but you can also really feel the city, not just as a location, but almost as another character that adds its own atmosphere and emotions. In what way was this inevitable when shooting in such a massive city like Lagos? And in what way did you actively try to make Lagos a real character?
I don't think it's I don't think it's inevitable. I think we have a lot of films in Lagos that that are deliberately very self-contained, shot in a few locations, without much happening in the exterior, because Lagos is a very hard city to control anything in, or get much done in. So this was a very big agenda for us, on a production level. The script was very much a character in. Sorry, the city was very much a character in Chuko's script. The amount of locations that we shot at existed on the page. So for us, this was a question of working out how to stage various scenes outside and sort of let or allow Lagos and life in that city to interfere with the frames, you know, and with the various scenes that we were tackling in, you know, where, you know, the market or like or this or Balande, the district where, you know, Mofe's going to the tailor, or the Friday prayers. All of those things are things that we just where we embrace the environment that we were shooting in, and obviously we're very prepared going into it, having, you know, been in all these different communities and spoken to people and let them know what we were doing.
Yeah. So you also decided to shoot EYIMOFE on 16mm film. Was this purely for aesthetic reasons, or what other factors played a role for this type of visualization?
Well, I'd been shooting on film for about 2 years before we got to making EYIMOFE. So I'd been working on film for a good amount of time, and when we got around to doing it, I think we talked a lot about the desire to capture Lagos on what, you know, I say film's the best technology out there, and we wanted to capture Lagos on the best thing available to us, and that was film. You know, it was not just a question of getting a particular type of texture and feel for the image and this nostalgic quality. We felt that it would provide a certain amount of intimacy for the spaces that we would inhabit and for our characters. You know, also the aspect ratio we shot in 4:3. It sort of lends itself more to portraiture. So it's sort of like this concentration on space and faces that we really wanted to go for. And then there's also the archival quality of film. You know, like, we haven't really seen Lagos on film before. So that was an important part of an important thing for us as well. Just the idea that we were creating this canon, speaking to this very specific moment in time, and the idea of this period aging in a particular way, I think, was also important to us.
Yes. So with a debut as interesting and as multi-layered as yours, there tend to be many comparisons with other films. There are critiques that point out, for example, how much EYIMOFE differs from typical Nollywood, and others look at comparisons with author filmmakers like Ozu, Claire Denis, or Robert Altman. How do you feel about such comparisons?
I'm fine with them.
Very well. Yeah.
Yeah, ditto. No, it's very flattering. Quite unbelievable, right? I mean, part of me is like, are they watching the same film as we're watching? But yeah, no, it's very flattering, very humbling.
Understandable, yes, understandable. So, in looking into the future, what other projects can we expect from you? Will you be working together again? And are you working on any specific project right now?
Well, we came into the world
Again.
together, so we may as well never again. So we may as well continue. I don't think our mother will let us not work together. That's so. So yeah, no. Obviously, it's a great joy and pleasure. I'd say we're not tied at the hip in the way some twins are, and we're very different. We're wired very differently, and I say quite literally because I'm right-handed, Arie's left-handed. You know, he's more visually inclined. I'm more partial to words. So projects we speak about doing together, and then you know he has ideas that frankly I don't understand, and I have ideas he doesn't understand. So it'll be project based, but right now we're just developing ideas in film and in the television space as well. All of them take place at home. I think that's the one thing I can say, and I'm comfortable speaking for him, is that we're very committed to making films here. I'll say that because you know we'll see when Disney send you a blank check, then maybe it changes. But no, we're very committed to making films here. I think for me personally, the most pressing thing I'm working on is I'm trying to adapt a Virginia Woolf novel, but taking it from 1920s London to 2020s Lagos, Nigeria. So that's what I'm doing in between Zoom Q&As, at least, trying to get that written.
Yeah, very much looking forward to that. So, Arie, anything to add, or you're happy with the
No, very happy with that. Very happy with that response. Very accurate.
Okay, well then that's already all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for participating. It was quite a pleasure and very informative as well. All the best for the two of you for your future, and any last words for our viewers?
Arie or me? No, I think I would say thank you all very much for taking the time to watch the film. It really is. We're very grateful and humbled for the opportunity to share it with you, and that we hope you enjoy visiting our little corner of the world for an hour and 50 minutes or so.